Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to give you some tips for when you are buying a violin and a bow. The first thing I would recommend is if you're having violin lessons, then talk to your teacher and they will be able to talk you through all of the things that I'm going to advise on in this video and give you some tailored advice to your individual needs. So the first thing is to consider what size violin do you need to buy. You might be buying this violin for yourself or you might be buying it for a child. There are many different sizes of violin before you get onto a full-size violin, which is what I have here. And they are suitable for very young children up to adults. Sometimes children can need a full-size violin before they reach their full size, but it's really important to know what size you need. If you're having lessons, then your teacher will be able to help you with that. If not, then I'd really recommend finding or going to a local dedicated music or violin shop, and they will be able to help you with making sure that you get the correct size violin. So one of the next things is to consider what standard are you? So are you a beginner just starting out, or do you have a child who's just starting out? Have you been learning for a little while, or are you an experienced violinist? So at each of those different stages, there are many different types of violins and bows that you can choose from. The most important thing, even if you're just starting out with the violin, is to make sure that you buy a good quality instrument. The violin is a complex instrument, and if you don't buy a good enough quality instrument, you're making something that's already really difficult even harder. You won't get good sounds from your violin and it will be very difficult to do all the things that you want to do on it. Sometimes we have the term violin-shaped objects for some instruments that really aren't good enough quality to call themselves a violin. One of the key things is the bridge, which is this piece of wood just here. That needs to be a very specific size, and it needs to be a very specific shape, and it needs to be positioned in exactly the right place. And if these things are in place, the right size and the right shape, you'll get a good sound from your violin. If they're not, then that really limits your ability to play and get the right string when you're aiming for that with your bow, and also to make a good sound. So really, really important to consider the quality of your violin. So just like if you're looking for a different size of violin, I'd really recommend that you go and find a local dedicated music shop or violin shop, and they will also be able to show you different violins of different prices. There'll definitely be violins that have got, for example, a good bridge if you use that sort of music shop. And you can also try some different things and see them. A really good idea is to consider hiring a violin when you first start out. And lots of local music shops or local music services will offer that. And it means that you can try something for a while, see how you get on with it. What I'd recommend that you do when you're looking at any violin is to make sure that the strings look new. So for example, down here, are they a little bit frayed, or are they very, very damaged around this section? Or again, are they frayed at the top? Just make sure if you're hiring a violin that you have got a violin that doesn't have very old strings or isn't very worn. And again, with the bow, you want the bow to be really white all the way from the heel to the tip, so that you know that it's going to make a good sound for you. If that is very dirty or has a lot of brown across the hair, then it means that that really isn't going to make a very good sound for you. So you won't have that problem if you buy a new bow, but just be careful of that when hiring an instrument. Don't forget to get a shoulder rest. So that's a really important part of getting your violin. And again, if you use a music shop, they'll be able to let you try some different things so you can see that the shoulder rest is comfortable as you put it onto your shoulder. So ideally you don't want to be raising your shoulder to try and clamp down onto the violin, and you don't want it to feel like you're stretching to get your chin onto the chin rest. So that shoulder rest and the height of your shoulder rest is really important, and it's good to be able to try out a few different options. If you are considering buying a violin online, then there are lots of dedicated online music shops and they have a range of different brands available. So make sure when you're doing that, you're using a dedicated music shop and you're looking carefully at the different features of the violin and making sure that it is a brand that sells a range of instruments and that has lots of reviews and is good quality and also used by other violinists. Be really careful about what seem like good deals for violins when you're just, as I said earlier, make something that's already difficult much more difficult for yourself. So if you've managed to purchase yourself your violin and your bow, your case, your shoulder rest, sometimes when you have a brand new violin or even a violin that's come from a hire shop, it can have new strings on it. Now, when the strings are first put onto a violin, they take a little while for us to, what we would say, settle. And that means they need to be stretched and the pegs stay in place. As they're settling or stretching, the violin can go out of tune a lot. And it can be really frustrating and disheartening for a new violinist who's got their new violin, but the violin won't stay in tune. So make sure you have a tuning device and that you can regularly tune your new violin if your strings are not yet settled. Be really careful using your pegs. Try not to over-tune your violin, as in too sharp or too high, otherwise sometimes those strings can snap. You also want to really try and just use the pegs until your violin has settled, not your tuners. So the tuners are really for what we call fine tuning. Now, if you have a brand new bow, then you might find that when your bow is brand new and has absolutely no rosin on it yet, I'll show you my rosin. This is my rosin here. You'll get them in these little kind of bits of cloth. The bow won't really make any sound on the string at all. And it's the rosin that sticks onto the hair of the bow and then makes the sound sticks onto the strings and makes the sound. So with no rosin on the bow doesn't really make any sound at all. And again, can be really frustrating for a new violinist when they've got their new bow, their new violin, but yet it's not making any sound. So a brand new bow will need to have lots of rosin put on. Once there's enough rosin to make a sound, be careful not to keep adding lots of rosin. Less is more when it comes to rosin, and you won't need lots once you've first made that application. So I hope you found this video helpful and please subscribe to my channel.